Welcome back to 305 Insights, where today we're talking about my beloved Florida State Seminoles. Now, a few days ago, they released their official depth chart for the game week 0 in Ireland against Georgia Tech. Now, there are a few surprises here, both good and bad, and we'll dive into the chart a little bit as well as what we can expect out of this first game. So we're going to let's start off with the offense. The starters, we got 2 running back starters, 3 wide receivers, and 1 tight end. Sometimes they had 2 tight ends last year under Mike Norvell's depth chart. So little change here. So we're going to start off with the QB, DJ. Butchered that for a second. DJ Ungalele. That was expected. You're going to have a little more confidence this year compared to last year in the sense of, Jordan Travis is Tate Rodmaker to Brock Glenn. DJ, 6'4", 252. Built pretty strongly. You have faith that he can stay healthy this year and not run the risk of what happened with Jordan Travis over the past few years where you get sometimes, obviously, the whole thing happened with his ankle, but he would have nicks and bruises here and there that would clearly affect how they called the game. So don't really foresee that happening with DJ. But if it does, you have more confidence in Brock Glenn, a full year into the system as well as an offseason. I think that'll work wonders for him. And, we've kind of talked about it briefly here and there, but I'm really looking forward to the battle next year between Brock Glenn and Luke Kroenke, the true freshman that came in. That's going to be an interesting battle to see who the future is of the program. Brock Glenn, 6'2", 215. You see flashes of brilliance from him, even at a young age. Luke Kroenke, 6'4", 208 as a true freshman. Dual threat ability. That's going to be fun. But, again, you have DJ as a starter. The 2 stars at running back, you got Roydell Williams and Lawrence Toafili. And then backing up Williams, you got Keziah Holmes or Cam Davis. And then behind Toafili, you have Jalen Lucas and Sam Singleton Jr. I really think this year is going to be kind of the same concept as last year with a 3-headed monster sort of thing. Or 3 primary backs with a couple other backs getting a few carries here and there. But primarily, I think it's going to be heavily Roydell, Lawrence, and Keziah Holmes. I think Cam Davis will get some carries this year as a true freshman. However, I don't think they're going to burn a year and just keep him as a red shirt. Might see more from Sam Singleton or even Jalen Lucas as a gadget player, but I would venture to say that probably 90% of the carries, if not higher, are going to be split between Roydell, Williams, Toafili, and Keziah Holmes. Number 1 wide receiver, Malik Benson, which was expected, transfer from Alabama. The slot is going to be Ja'Kai Douglas. He's been here for a little bit as a redshirt senior. And then the surprise at the 3rd wide receiver is going to be Jaylen Brown, the transfer from LSU that FSU recruited heavily as a redshirt. He's a redshirt freshman now. So you kind of see what they're trying to go with here. We've talked about it in the past with the shift that they made in the transfer portal, getting Benson and Brown. It's different from having Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson, where you have those physically dominant wide receivers. Benson, Brown, burners, Ja'Kai Douglas, 5'9", 195. He can move around. And you've seen it with his explosive plays. The one against Miami a few years ago, the big game that he had against Pittsburgh where he was basically carrying the wide receiver offense because Wilson and Coleman were not 100% and were out. But the vital part of this wide receiver room is going to be what happens with the depth. And with the depth comes senior leadership that needs to step up. Backing up Benson is Kentron Poirier, the redshirt senior, 6'3", 202. Backing up Ja'Kai Douglas, Deuce Spawn, the transfer, 6'4", 208, redshirt senior. Backing up Jaylen Brown, Darian Williamson, 6'3", 202, another redshirt senior. These seniors are needed for a multitude of reasons. One, like I said, to provide the depth. Two, their size and athletic ability. Poirier is a deep threat. He's not a speedster like Benson or Brown, but I believe he averaged like 20 yards a catch, even though he played limited time last year. He needs to continue to have that explosive playmaking ability. But he is in that Johnny Wilson tier where he has those moments of lapses in ability to catch the ball. Deuce Spawn has shown his explosiveness on special teams. Darian Williamson, in the few games that he's healthy every year, he always has that one game where you're like, oh, that's why the coaching staff likes him. If these guys are healthy and they produce, this weakness that is perceived on this team with this wide receiver room will be erased. And then you got the young guys. You got Hakeem Williams coming back. He's listed third at wide receiver. He's in sorry. I don't want to say third, but It's Kentron Poirier or Hakeem Williams. And then on the slot, you have the freshman Elijah Moore, 6'4", 204 pounds. I really don't think they're going to play him a lot, but it is good to see him and LaWayne McCoy, 6'1", 176, on the depth chart already as true freshmen. Again, you don't have that top-tier depth that you want, but you still have to earn it with this staff. So seeing those guys on there is you can only take it as a positive. You'd like to. At tight end, you got Kyle Morlock coming back. And then, again, I know you see a redshirt junior, in Brian Courtney and Jackson West. But it's a good thing that those guys have earned the trust of the coaching staff, because you don't really want to see Landon Thomas or Amari Williams this year playing a lot. Those two are great athletes, physically gifted, but you need to pick up the blocking in this scheme. And you can depend on these guys to do that. And Kyle Morlock at 6'6", 240, that's a huge frame that's a good safety blanket for DJ. And now we come to the strength of the offense, the offensive line. You got who I think is the most important player in the offensive line, left tackle Darius Washington, the redshirt senior. Measurables are 6'4", 310 pounds. He finally gets to play one position this year. With the perceived depth that this coaching staff has with Alex Atkins and Mike Norvell leading the way, they're basically telling Darius, you're at left tackle and you're good to go, which is good for him because he's got all the talent in the world and he deserves a year of just stability as opposed to jumping in between guard and center and all this stuff. Play left tackle, play up to the potential that you showed year over year, the growth. And he's going to be the anchor of this offensive line. The surprise behind him is the redshirt freshman Lucas Simmons, a physical marvel at 6'8", 308 pounds. He lost a lot of last year due to an injury, but again, it is refreshing to see young talent listed on the depth chart. Too deep. Left guard, Richie Leonard IV, coming out of Florida, the transfer. I think he's going to be pretty solid. You don't have that pressure of him expected to be more than what he was at Florida. But at 6'2", 331 pounds, he knows how to move that body. And behind him, you have Bryson Estes, 6'3", 285, a little on the smaller side compared to a bunch of these hosses they have on this offensive line. And we'll get to some of those guys very shortly. At center, you have Maurice Smith, 6'3", 298. The redshirt senior brings a wealth of knowledge and experience. And if him and Robert Scott Jr. stay healthy, and we'll get to Robert in a bit, this is going to be one of the better offensive lines that they've had under Mike Norvell. Backing him up, you have Andre Otto, the redshirt freshman, 6'5", 325. I believe that's a kid from Key West that they're really high on. So trying to get him somewhere on the offensive line. Again, Alex Atkins, for better or worse, loves to have these guys. And again, you saw with Darius Washington the ability to play multiple positions on the offensive line. Ideally, you would like for them to stick in one spot, but he's a redshirt freshman. You want to get him some playing time somewhere. He might get that playing time there. Again, redshirt freshman, 6'5", 325. It's insane. Or Jacob Rizzi, 6'5", 308 senior. At right guard, you got two of the transfers. Keandre Jordan was on the team last year, transferred in from Auburn, 6'3", 337. Or TJ Ferguson, the transfer from Alabama, 6'4", 330. He's a redshirt junior, so maybe Keandre gets more playing time. At least TJ will be able to come back next year if he feels the need to do so. So, again, a lot of beef on that interior. You got Leonard at 6'2", 331, and Keandre Jones and TJ Ferguson, 6'3", 6'4", both of them 330 pounds and above. Everybody's above 330 pounds. Right tackle, you got Jeremiah Byers, the redshirt senior, 6'4", 331 pounds. I believe he transferred from UTEP, one of those smaller schools from Texas. You kind of saw the struggles he had last year with the speed of the game. But it's been a year, another offseason in the strength and conditioning program, another offseason of development under Alex Atkins. I think he's going to do just fine this year. Then you've got Robert Scott backing him up, 6'5", 337. We'll see if he stays healthy this year. If he does, again, immensely talented individual, as long as he stays on the field. Their backup, Jalen Early, 6'4", 297, redshirt sophomore. The disappointing part on this list, again, you have the bright spots in Andre Otto and Lucas Simmons. Julian Arema. I think I pronounced this right now. I think it's Arlema. The legacy recruit who's been in the program for 3 years now. And if he's not making it on the depth chart, unfortunately, folks, I think he's transferring out. I know he was a 4-star recruit coming out, legacy. But that, I believe, was a 2022 recruiting class. He's the last offensive lineman that was taken in that class, or that is still here from that class. And there's a lot of good talent on paper, 4-star talent that we got that just never developed. Concerning. But it's just unfortunate not to see him here. You're hoping he would at least break somewhere in the backup range, but it just sucks seeing someone that this staff really recruited hard and was hoping to develop, and he just hasn't gotten there. And this is going into his 3rd season. Special teams, both Ryan Fitzgerald at kicker and Alex Mastromanno come back. Both redshirt seniors. It's going to be on the strengths of the team, the kicking and the punting. You got the long snapper Mason Arnold, and Alex also serves as the holder. The returners are going to be interesting. For kickoff returns, you have Jalen Lucas as Roydell Williams listed as the starters, with Deuce Spahn and Kazia Holmes as the backups. I really think that this is going to be primarily Jalen Lucas. This is why you brought him in. This was his specialty last year in the Big Ten. And I don't think you want to run the risk of having Roydell or Kazia Holmes hurt on kickoff returns. And even punting, they have Malik Benson or Jalen Lucas or Lawayne McCoy. I don't think you're going to burn a year of eligibility on McCoy just to be a punt returner. So again, I think kickoffs and punt returns, even though again, you have Malik Benson listed as a starter, I think Jalen Lucas is going to handle virtually all these duties. And now we go to the strength of this team, the defense. Now, I believe it was Pete Thamel, might have been someone else, on ESPN said that this was the most talented defensive line in the country. Again, you have arguments for teams like Texas, Michigan, but make no mistake about it, folks. This is a top-tier defensive line. Whether you want to rank it as the best, because in Pete's mind, you're going to have 4 players drafted in the top 100 draft picks. Does that make them the best? Maybe, maybe not. But again, that's their opinion, not mine. I do think this is one of the best offensive lines in the country. I'm just giving you someone who's considered an expert that covers the sport as opposed to my opinion, which I value, obviously, but it's neither here nor there. Defensive end, you got Patrick Payton. We've talked about him multiple times in the past. Kid's got all the talent in the world. 6'5", 250, bats down passes, sacks, tackles for loss. Even if he doesn't get to the quarterback, he finds ways to disrupt the plays. At backup, you have the transfer from Oregon State, Sione Lolea. 6'3", 265 pounds, redshirt senior, good rotational piece to come in. At defensive tackles, you've got 2 guys who used to play high school football together and are finally able to play at Florida State together. Joshua Farmer, 6'3", 318, and Darrell Jackson Jr., 6'5", 330. Both of these guys are freaks. Farmer showed you what he can do when he was healthy, when he didn't have that hand injury. He still played through it, but he lost a little bit of explosiveness. These guys are listed on, I believe it was The Athletic. Can't remember the author. Forgive me for that. I believe both of them, or maybe it was Darrell Jackson, was listed as one of the top 20 freakiest athletes in college football. That's the talent that they have at defensive tackle. Backing up Farmer, you got KJ Sampson, the redshirt freshman. The staff is really high on this kid. And then you have, oh boy, I always butcher this name. The transfer from West Virginia, who they were wondering, are you going to play defensive end, defensive tackle? But he has the versatility to go through both. Tomiwa or UJ, probably butchered that. And then backing up Darrell Jackson, you have Daniel Lyons and Grady Kelly. Grady Kelly was a transfer from, I believe it was Colorado State. On the other side of defensive end, you got Marvin Jones Jr., the legacy recruit, son of Marvin Jones, obviously, a great player in the 90s for Florida State. I believe he finished 4th in the Heisman one year, which is insane for a defensive player. He didn't have all that much playing time in Georgia. Now he's got a lot on his plate. The expectations. He did have an injury at the beginning of the workouts and all that stuff, but he's really come into his own. 6'5", 255. He could be another freak athlete that this defensive line under Otto Hankins and company produce. Byron Turner Jr. backs him up. If he stays healthy, this is going to be a crucial development year for him because, again, rotational piece, but he'll be leaned on next year as a starter. The coaching staff thinks this is a deeper team than last year in the sense of, yeah, you had Peyton and Jared Verse, and then you had, Farmer and Fisk and all those guys in the middle, but it's the rotations that they could put in. Gilbert Edmonds transferred out. He transferred in from South Carolina and then didn't really produce much. And then you had him transfer back to South Carolina. So they really believe that this team is deeper on this side of the ball. And I would believe that's true. And I think that This is one of the spots where you did get, 3 or 4 transfers in there, but this team was basically dependent on high end talent in the sense of you had Fabian Lovett. Let's not forget him. And the Fiskin Farmer in the middle. But after that, who'd you have? Malcolm Ray? He transferred out. Who'd you have behind Patrick Payton and Jared Verse to put on the pressure? You're going to have people that are going to be able to step up and offer high quality play. Maybe not at the top level that they had last year, but the continuous level is what makes this coaching staff high on this defensive line. At linebacker, you've got Cam Riley, the transfer from Auburn/NC State. Again, this kid's going to be unique because he's 6'5", 237 at the linebacker position. That's crazy measurables. It's going to be interesting to see how Adam Fuller uses him. Or you got Blake Nicholson. Basically, the or is listed as co-stars because they're both in bold. 6'3", 224-pound sophomore. It's really exciting to see him on that starting level. You saw him have some growing pains in his freshman year, but this kid was one of the top linebackers in the country. So it's good to see that he's earned the trust of the staff already. Backing them up is DeMarco Ward, the redshirt freshman. The other starting linebacker is going to be DJ Lundy. He transferred out to Colorado, decided it wasn't for him, transfers back to Florida State. Now, the redshirt senior, 6'1", 241 pounds, is graded out as one of the best linebackers against the run. PFF grades. Not biased. And, he's probably going to improve in coverage this year, so he's looking to improve that all-around play. And I think he does it. Backing him up, 2 young kids in Omar Graham Jr. and Justin Cryer. This is another one of those spots where I find it, disappointing that, there was an expectations before Cam Riley came in. You were obviously looking at DJ Lundy and then hoping that one of the young kids would rise up. But more importantly, you got linebacker Sean Murphy from Alabama. It's a shame that, he had too many peaks and valleys for this coaching staff to trust him, and he's not even listed on the depth chart. So we'll see how that breaks down in the future, but that was one of the surprises. If you asked me at the beginning of, the spring and the summer, who I thought one of the most important transfer was, I thought it was Sean Murphy, and he's not even listed on here. So that's pretty interesting. In the nickel position, you've got Kevin Knowles II, who, I haven't always been high on, but apparently he's really stepped up this offseason. So he's got that or with the starting bold next to Earl Little Jr. as well, the transfer from Alabama. I think over time you're going to see Earl Little take over more. But again, if Kevin Knowles plays up to the way this coaching staff believes he can play to, by all means, prove me wrong. But I think Earl Little is going to be dominating this position as the season wears on. Backing them up, Jabril Rawls. I don't know if it sounded like I had to be in there, but Jabril Rawls, the redshirt freshman. Again, really good to see these young kids making the depth chart, considering the depth that they have at these positions. In one of the cornerback positions, Fentrell Cypress II comes back. Year 2 in this system. I think he's going to be more comfortable. I thought he caught a lot of flack last year for, the different type of man coverage he was expected to play versus what he did at Virginia, UVA. That there's a lot of hype for him coming in the season, and he played well. It's just everybody thought he was going to be some sort of shutdown corner, and there were adjustments that needed to be made with him and the expectations. But I really do think he is going to be an excellent quarterback this year, now that he has had another year under the belt and understanding how the system fully works. Backing up, you have Quindarius Jones and Kai Bates, a sophomore and a true freshman. Again, young kids. The team is pretty high, if I remember correctly. I believe it was either him or Edwin Joseph, but Quindarius Jones, they're really high on that kid. 6'2", 190. He's got the length. Kai Bates, again, true freshman from last year's recruiting class. They're high on him as well because of his length and his just freakish athletic ability. At the buck, which is one of the safety positions, you got Shaheem Brown, obviously the leader of this back line. I know people might say Azareye'h Thomas, but Shaheem Brown has earned that captain of the back line label. Behind him, you have KJ Kirkland, the redshirt freshman. And the other safety position, you have the transfer from UCF/UM, Devontae Brown. Backing him up is Conrad Hussey. Hussey, I think the fan base is also high on him as much as his coaching staff is. But it's more of a playing it safe with Devontae Brown. Conrad Hussey has a higher ceiling. But I believe currently right now, Devontae has the higher floor. So, and that's what they are kind of looking at right now. But again, by the end of the year, you might be looking at more Conrad Hussey than anything. And the final cornerback position is Azareye'h Thomas, 6'2", 198-pound junior, who's finally going to get that starting role, even though he has been a great contributor in the limited playing time he's had over the past few years. When he's needed to start is when he needed to take extended playing time. He has made the best of it. So he's on the list of top 100 players on ESPN. I believe he made it at 100. There's a lot of expectations for him this year to be the next great cornerback. So I don't expect him to stay after this year. I think he's going to have a huge year and leave for the NFL. Behind him is Edwin Joseph, redshirt freshman, and then Charles Lester III, the borderline 5-star cornerback that was recruited last recruiting class. So, after reviewing all that, what do we think about the game against Georgia Tech? Odds are, I believe they're currently at 11.5. They opened up at 12.5, I believe. Takes place at 12 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Ireland time this Saturday. I think, obviously, I believe they're going to win this game. Are they going to win it by 12 points to cover the spread? I mean, I can see that, but I think there might be some growing pains initially. And they might pull away later on in the game. So, what kind of score do I think they get? I want to say 30. I'm thinking mid-30s. I don't want to say 34, but I want to say 34-20. I think this offensive line and defensive line are going to be the difference in this game. And I don't think Haynes King and company are going to be able to throw the ball effectively. I know they like running the ball, but I don't see that being an effective game plan against this talent. So we'll see. I think FSU wins this one. And I'm hoping it's a convincing win. Is 34-20 convincing? Maybe, maybe not. But I do think that they are going to come back to the U.S. 1-0. So, not going to dive too much into it because I'm going to be releasing this podcast on Friday. So, we'll have obviously the deeper dive once the game's over. Probably get that out by Sunday, if not Monday the latest, and just review how everybody looked. But all in all, I'm really thinking that the offensive line is going to dominate. I think we're going to see a lot of effective run plays. I don't necessarily think they're going to have to be running the counter to have that effective running. But again, we'll see. And I think this offense or the defensive line is going to really show why that there's a lot of hype around them. And again, I think the strength of this defense is going to be the back end with the cornerback play. I know they're really high on the defensive line, but I think those are going to work in unison. And then this notion that the linebacker core was going to be the weakest part of this team, I think that's going to change fairly quickly. So I'm hoping that, again, if Georgia Tech decides to be a run-heavy team, which they kind of were last year, in the sense that I think Haynes King, outside of Jaden Daniels, is the only guy to throw for over 2,000 yards and rush for 700, plus the running backs that they have and the identity that they try to establish. DJ Lundy is going to come well prepared for this game, and the expectations are he's going to keep on being one of those effective linebackers against the run on top of the defensive line. And again, the setups that Adam Fuller might have for Cam Riley, it's going to be really interesting to watch. That's what I'm really going to be looking forward to, is how effectively they try to, because we know what to expect from the defensive line and from DJ Lundy and from Shaheem Brown, Azaria Thomas, Ventrell Cypress. We've seen that play out last year. How are they going to use Cam Riley? What are the expectations of Blake Nicholson being in a sort of pseudo starting role? That's going to be where the fun is. And that's it for this episode, folks. I know it's a long one, but again, when we start talking about FSU, it's kind of hard to stop. How passionate I am about that stuff. So in the coming days, I've got some stuff that I want to record about previewing all 4 conferences. I kind of had those set up. It's just a matter of recording them and releasing them before next week, before all the games start. So ideally, over the next few days, we're going to be pumping out that content. So if you guys have been here before, you know the drill. But for all you new listeners, if you're listening to us, you're probably listening to us in one of 3 different spots. But don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us. You've got Spotify, you've got Apple Podcasts, and you can find us on YouTube, all under 305 Insights. So as we embark on this new college season, folks, I thank you for listening. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time here on 305 Insights.